All right, here we are. We're back, and it's number 3 video, and we're going to do number 23. So here's number 23. This was when I went to prison. Oh, forgot to tell you I had the keys. So yeah, I wasn't put in prison, but I actually got a job working at the prison. It would appear as though my mom was in San Francisco, was the executive secretary to the guy who ran the whole West Coast prison systems for the federal. And so she, of course, introduced me, and he said, hey, you could get a job in this and you could work your way up. You could end up in charge of a prison, because I had the degree, I had the naval experience, or the Navy, which gave me extra points to hire as a job, when you're going for a civil servant job. So I said, okay. He said, but you got to start at the bottom. Nobody at the top ever didn't start as a guard. So I said, okay. So I went to the training to be a guard, came back and went to Terminal Island. What a great name, Terminal Island. Basically in San Diego area, in Long Beach area. And so I did many jobs in there, and I had some very unique experiences where I ended up coaching two different inmates, giving him some coaching, and got one to be able to get away from his migraine headaches, and the other to realize that he was okay after what had happened. He tried to rob a bank. He was hoping to be killed so his wife would get coverage. That's how desperate the poor fellow was. So I worked with him in coaching. And the other fella had migraine headaches. Very interesting job. Learned a great deal. Most of the people in there were completely you could not rehabilitate them. I like to say, if you put me in charge, at the third time they went to the big house, we'd just put them on the Devil's Island and let them figure it out, because there's no chance they're going to come out to be a good citizen. So that was it as a prison guard. And let's see, inmate counselor. Yeah, okay. And I'll tell you the fun part about this is I've been at this job for almost a year, and I had goofed up. I didn't put a report in correctly, and I ended up being disciplined by being put at the women's. They had a women's part of this. They had a women's section, and I had to control the gate outside on the isthmus of the island, and at night from about 11 o'clock to 7 o'clock, and there was nobody there. Nobody came in and out, so I had nothing to do for 8 hours in the dark. I just walk up and down. That was it. Well, I met a girl who was working there, and she came in, and she's beautiful. And she'd come in, I'd say hi. Well, I put the moves on her, and eventually got a date. And we're sitting up on what's called Lover's Hill in Long Beach, where you look out over the whole area. It's really nice. And I've got her in my little truck, and I put my arm around her, and I felt like I was a kid in high school. I didn't know what to do with a beautiful woman in the car with me. And I went, oh my gosh, I got to get out of this job. So that next day, I looked at my calendar, figured out when I could quit the job, and there it was. I was gone. Never saw the girl again, but I tell you what, I had to get out of there. That was not a good way to live. Okay, 24. What do we got on 24? Okay, as best I can figure, this is about 1974. I left the prison, and then I got the most unique job perhaps anyone could ever have. So I get out, and the guy who had the migraines had gotten out before I left, and he called me, and he said, I need your help. I said, oh yeah, right. He said, look, I broke my arm, and he's a salesman, all he did, his whole life was a sales pitch. And he said, I broke my arm, I can't drive, and I've got this sales job thing. Would you be my driver, and I'll split some of the take with you, and it's legitimate, well, sort of. So I did. So I drove the car for him, and he was selling a very unique membership in an organization for sales that would allow you to bypass some taxes. And it only lasted a few weeks, but I love to say job number 24 was the screw and the con, because the guard was considered a screw, and there was a con. So that was my screw and con job. Not many folks, I think, got that job. Okay, 25, we're only on 4 minutes. Okay, let's see, what did what was 25? Back to LA. Oh, and then a friend of mine that I met in the S training had a business. I moved back to LA and had a business called California Divorce Council. He was on the cutting edge. He saw what was happening. California passed the first laws, I think, in the nation where someone could get a divorce without having the spouse show up at court and all of that. It was an uncontested. They didn't show up, so there was a whole procedure you went through, putting the names in the phone book and filling out forms and yada yada. So he asked me to join him, and I opened 3 of his offices around the LA basin, and staffed them, and made my rounds every day, and brought in the money and all that. It was very, very unique, and once again, a job that had some sales ability, but had more than that, had an independence to it. And that's what has been my core happening, for a long time. Okay, 26. Let's see what 26 is. Okay, out of LA, off to Portland. My friend Tom from the Navy had gotten. He had lived in Portland before the Navy, and or after the Navy. Anyway, and he had several businesses there, but he got a franchise. I guess you could say it was a franchise for the local newspaper. The Oregonian paper would have areas that they would give out as a franchise. The person owning the franchise would then buy the papers from the newspaper company and then sell them, if you will, to the paper boy, who would then go out and deliver them to all the houses. Of course, way before the internet, way before any of that. So I was able to get on one of those franchises, and I worked it for about a year and a half, and came to hate Portland because you could go I think I went for 36 days and never saw the sun. I said, oh yeah. So after a while, finally I said, this has got to change, and I sold the business, and that would have been number 26. Now, number 27, pretty much I know which one that is. I said to myself, okay, I sold the business. What am I going to do? I'm going to get out of Dodge. I didn't want to be around people. In the newspaper business, I had this little black kid that was delivering papers, and people would stiff him. They wouldn't pay him. They said, oh, you didn't get our paper, and they'd slam the door in his face. I mean, come on. So I was really down on the world, and I decided, what am I going to do? I'm going to go to Alaska. I'm going to get on a fishing boat. I'm going to go fishing during the summer and get the hell away from everything. So that's what I did, sort of. I put my sea bag on my back, walked down to the bus station in Portland, hopped on the bus, and through a very unique experience, I met a young lady on the bus who worked at the port where they were hiring people to go to Alaska. Don't you know? God's always looking over for me. And it was really nice. I stayed with the lady for a couple of weeks in the house she was babysitting. It was $1 million house, and I got to have some nice recreation. So that was really great. Okay, then along it comes time to go. So they put me on an airplane. They fly me up to Alaska. And I got to tell you, I'm landing at the place where we're landing, the first landing spot. I mean, I went in up, I forget where we landed. I got in another plane and then on to where we're going. But still, it was a classic jet airplane in those days, a jet on each wing. It was not a small plane. And when they landed, they had to throw it in reverse, turn everything, all the brakes on, everything. We were on a gravel runway, and this is a formal jet, from a regular jet. They had to slam it in gear to stop it. And I get out and I go, wow, we're here. They said, oh no, not quite yet. You got to get on the little plane, on the Cessna with the pilot, and he's going to take you to where you're working. So off we go again for just a few minute flight to a big hunk of tundra, whereon is a salmon cannery built into it. So there I was in a salmon cannery in the middle of nowhere, and I remember getting off this Cessna, and the plane took off. The sun hadn't never set, but it was almost like it was setting. It was probably midnight, and I can remember looking and saying, "Okay, Dick, you got to remember the old saying: be careful what you ask for. I wanted to get away from it all. There I was. No phones, no radio, no nothing. The plane would bring in mail about every 3 or 4 days, and there it was. So that was a fun one. That was number 27. Okay, how are we? 10 minutes. Okay, 28. How are we doing on 28? This is around 1975. I moved back to, in 1975, I got married to my first wife, of which, as you know, Frank, there's been 4 of them. All great women, wonderful people. We just grew apart. So we got married we went to Hawaii as a little break to stay a couple weeks, and we ended up staying for about a year, and got married on the beach. And then there were a lot of jobs in Hawaii, because it was hard to find work that was decent work. And even with degrees, it didn't matter. It was hard to find a job. So let's see, I've got a bunch of them. Let's see if I got some of these written. So number 28 just gets us to Hawaii. One of the jobs was roofing coating salesman. In Hawaii, strange as it seems, well, I guess it makes sense. They have flat roofs. They don't have any snow weight to worry about, you know. But the roofing material has to be special, and it over time the sun just breaks it down, and so there's a real problem. So there was a contractor who come up with a spray-on foam kind of roofing, and so I hired on to sell. And it was a hard sell, and you'd go around and talk to the people and go on the roof and map it out and see what areas were really bad, and then give them a quote. And in the month or so I worked there, I was the only one who sold a roofing. That's how tough of a sale it was. So so off on that one. Okay, number 29. Let's see, what's this? 29. Okay, we're at about 12 minutes, but I'll keep going a little bit. I'll have to get my other cards because there's quite a few jobs for Hawaii. In fact, why don't I stop at 12 minutes and we'll pick it up on number 29, my job at the ice cream parlor in Hawaii, Honolulu. All right.